Hey, everybody. Welcome back to ACES53 with Ed Parcaut and myself. And once again, it's a Thursday. So what do Thursdays mean? We bring in a special guest, something we call a joker. So on Tuesdays, it's just Ed and I. But on Thursdays, we bring in someone with a special skill or talent that can help you. So first off, how you doing today, Ed?
You all right there? You seem a little nervous.
No, I was getting ready to jump into who she was, and I thought I need to check on Ed. So I was making sure.
Ed's
how are
doing
you doing?
fine. He's doing great. No problem here. It's a Thursday.
Yep.
When you said normally it's Thursday, what do you do? That I thought you were out drinking, but
no,
it's different. Thursday.
I still got something stuck in my throat, so you'll see me muting a lot and coughing. But anyway,
slow down eating, chew fully.
That's right.
Yeah.
But as we were saying before, Thursdays we have on a special person with a skill or talent. And one of the things that Ed and I have been talking about this year, the last few months, is the importance of personal branding. So what we're going to bring in is Adele today, and move her down.
Just hit that.
There we go. And so I met Adele a few months ago, and it was interesting. She was on another podcast, and she has a very unique background, and that was she came from the PR world, the corporate world, and it wasn't just normal PR stuff. It was crisis PR as well. So you talk about, oh crap, what are we going to do? And you have to bring in the experts for things. And that was kind of your background. And what's really interesting is we'll talk about her website a little bit more and some of the things that are on it that'll catch your attention. But what you've really realized is it's got to move beyond corporations. Is that a fair statement?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think right now we're in an age where people have to become their own personal brand. Mm-hmm. And you've seen really the metamorphosis of this over the past like 5 to 10 years. And it's going to become even more important, especially as AI becomes everything is so ubiquitous. Anyone could write a soundbite on ChatGPT, right? Anyone can tell a story, but your personal stories, your personal brand, your wins, your experience are going to become so much more important and tied to setting you apart and making a differentiation strategy that really, creates a great opportunity for you and your company.
So my question is, this is what I think, but I'm going to ask a question for you. Okay. Do you think going forward, there's going to be a more emphasis on that you wrote the article yourself?
That's interesting. I mean, I think I'm not so sure about that. I don't know that people ever really cared about that. And as a person who started her career as a journalist for the first 5 years, my dad carried around in his wallet my first byline article at the Asbury Park Press, right? Like he tucked it in his wallet and he was so happy that I got a byline. I don't know that people ever cared besides your parents who wrote the article. But I think what's going to be more important is what's your story and can I relate it directly back to you? I think that's going to be more critical than who wrote the article. It's more, how do I tie it directly to you and your experience?
And the reason I ask that, because I see going forward more people wanting to connect with the actual individual because they want to make sure they're talking to an individual and not AI or somebody else. Because especially what I do, I'm in the mortgage industry. They're going to want to touch. That's just such a high ticket item. They're not going to want to go through. They're going to go through like the start point maybe to get certain things out, but they really want to make sure they know who they're talking to because it's a lot of money. And I think going forward, I see that they're going to be people wanting to get back to who people really are and the ones that can write that. I'm not saying it's going to be for everybody, but I just think there's going to be a big push in certain places in industry. Did you write that book, or did you ChatGPT help you write that book? Did you put on the book, my ghostwriter was ChatGPT, or did you include that? Because a lot of people before when you used a ghostwriter to help you, people don't understand. There's people who can write really well, and there's other people who can talk really well, and they can't write worth anything. And the people who can write can't talk worth anything. So there's two different skills there. And so that was just my take on kind of what I'm seeing myself personally, but I'm old school. So, that's just what I see.
Yeah, no, I like that, Ed. And I think that that's right, especially in like highly secure industries. You want to make sure that you're working with the person they say they are. I mean, that is 100% true. I mean, I just had an experience where I, as a consumer, were shopping around like healthcare. And, I want to get a new healthcare plan for my employees. And I just couldn't get a real person on the phone. And after a while, I just started going back old school channel, to my network and EO. Hey, entrepreneurs, who do you guys use for your healthcare plan? which is, that's such an old school way of doing it. But I found that just because I couldn't trust who I was getting on an internet search. So I think that does really tie into your point. If I'm doing a search, I want a person to be real. So that goes into like credibility, reputation. Absolutely. I think that's going to increase going forward.
And
I
you've
mean,
gone.
I see.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Brian. This is just the Ed and Adele show today, Brian. You just keep going over there.
Yeah.
No, because I see with DeepSeek that came out from China, right? You can't ask it a single question about China. What all the certain things, it's skewed. So people are going to start seeing a lot of these things come out, and they're skewed a certain way, or this or that, or people will think that whether or not they are. And I just think that it's going to get back to a change to where I really want to walk in and shake your hand and make sure you are who you are.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think, and also post COVID, right? I think
Right.
we want that more than ever. Mm-hmm.
Well, we've talked about that. That's the whole thing with what AI can do. It can 24 hours a day send emails, send DMs. Now you can go to Hey Jen and clone yourself, and people, depending on their level of how astute they are, they can tell if it's you or not. But and I've talked about before, you used to call centers to get a hold of someone, and now you hate that you get press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and you can't get to a live person. And so one of the things that you're known for is helping people with their emotional intelligence and social intelligence. How do they present themselves? How do they get in the rooms? Once they're in the rooms, how do they let people know that they're listening to them? And those skills are super, super important. We've talked before on this, but if you haven't heard it, intelligent.com did a survey December of 2023, 800 employers of trying to hire kids right out of college, and 53% of them couldn't even make eye contact in the room. Wow. That's the day and age that we're in. So learning something as simple as making eye contact puts you apart from the rest of the people. And AI can do so many amazing things, but it can never replace that warm body in the room trying to make an actual connection. We are a connection culture. That's how we stayed alive, was having tribes, groups, whatever you want to call it, community. And that's what AI and automation can't replace.
Right. And I saw that because I get pulled in for the city here of Modesto to sit on interviews as a business owner, just to be there. They want people from the public to be there. And they come in and sit down, won't even look at you while they're talking. And, and that just goes back to people who during a pandemic and other things, they didn't have to learn things, or they're so used to texting all the time. There's going to have to be some type of course or class to explain to people how to communicate. Or actually, let me take it back. I see a change already in people younger that they're not necessarily doing that. I think that's and please, if you're in this age range and you're perfect, don't worry about it. But 25 to 29 to 30-year-old people, I see more that are more likely not to be able to show eye contact. And I just think that's because of what they went through.
Yeah.
Gosh,
I hear about PR. Let's stick on PR though. Okay?
Yeah, no, I hear. I agree. I think that's true. And like with the flip of like the generations in the workplace, right? Like Gen Z has now outnumbered the amount of boomers in the workplace, right? So it's sort of flipping. And I think that they're going to demand a certain level of authenticity from leaders that they're not going to get in traditional media, news, these kinds of functions that we're all used to seeing, this like, kind of like Wizard of Oz approach to, to CEOs, to folks who own their own companies, etc. They now want the personal story. They want to hear that you're believable. They want to connect with you on a deeper level. And I think platforms like podcasts, like long form articles, as you just said, Ed, right? They're going to give people a better insight into who you are, what you believe, what you're about, your origin story. And people want to work for companies and organizations and individuals that they can identify with. And that's more important to Gen Z than it ever was to us, right? I mean, I think like I didn't go in being like, I really want to work for a company with somebody I believe in. I couldn't have cared less, right? It was like, is this going to be a great opportunity for me? Is this going to get me to where I need to go? It was just different criteria for why I was working for a company. But now I think that purpose-driven type of employee, they want and demand a certain level of authenticity from the people who are running the company.
Well, and I think it works both ways, because companies now will do a social media background check on the people who are interviewing for jobs. So it's not just you going in, showing up your resume and saying, I want to work here. People are vetting both the company, and the company is vetting people based on their social footprint as well. You know, because if you've got a bad social media page, there's a lot of companies who won't hire you because they think, oh, you're a liability with what you may post, and we don't want to give you a title within our company if this is what you show the rest of the world and you're easy to find.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Yeah, completely agree.
All right.
What
So
led you to, oh no, it's my turn now, Ed.
no, I'm talking. I'm taking over. No, I'm gonna go back to PR. I want to see where we start, because I
That's what
think
I
it's
wanted
so
to go to,
important because I've interviewed a few different people who have kind of done the same thing, where they started a PR company for people because they work for a company and they did it for major companies and other people, and they said this should be for everybody, and everybody should be able to get their information across. And I think it's important, if you're writing a book, like you said, or you need to get that information out to people, and PR is a good way to do that. So how does the average person utilize PR to help build their business or build their brand?
Yeah, so when I first started my company, which was back in 2008. So yeah, starting a luxury PR firm right on the height of like the Great Recession was like a great idea. I didn't realize it, but it was actually, because nobody was out there doing it to the level that I was doing. So one of my first clients was DuPont, the big chemical company, because they followed me from my old agency, and they said, hey, we still want to work with you, even though you don't work with that agency. We don't care. We're going to work with you. They were my first client. So I had a Fortune 50 company as my first client for my boutique firm. And then my second client was actually this little cupcake shop in Georgetown that I made famous because essentially I needed them to succeed, right? Because they were my second client. I had a lot riding on it at the time. You know, everybody around me was like, you're insane for opening up your own firm. I'm like, okay, let's these guys have got to be successful. So these two girls, I gave them the so what test, right? Like, so I'm from New York, New Jersey area. Like, so I had a no holds barred like approach to like whether or not you fit the mold for the type of company I want to work with. And I said, what makes you guys so special? And it's like, oh, our cupcakes are $4 each. I was like, oh, that's a lot of money. I'm not sure people are willing to pay that, especially as like a recession's going on. Our cupcakes are delicious. I'm like, so what? Nobody cares. They were like, we left a career in finance and fashion. I'm like, again, so what? Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, we sell out every day. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. And we took their countertop and we pushed the countertop that they had, and we pushed it closer to the door. And so it formed a line out and around the cupcake shop. And then I called all of my media contacts, including Frank Bruni of the New York Times, the food critic, the Today Show, GMA, Martha Stewart, Washington Post, and we started reporting on the line experience. So it was not even the cupcake that made the news. It was the experience of the people who are on the line waiting for the cupcake, right? And so what I took from that is people don't want a snobby stuck-up cupcake. What they want is a cupcake that's worth waiting in line for. And they're looking at how other people are behaving, right? And so they're going to do what other people are doing, because we don't want to go to the restaurant with nobody in there, right? We want to go to the restaurant that everybody's going to because we think we're going to miss out on something. And so really capitalizing on that, creating a personal brand for them. We actually wound up getting them a reality show on the Discovery Channel. Like, they became like, multimillionaires, opened up several shops across the board, and we created the cupcake trend, right? So this is in 2008. And then it just sort of, it built a momentum from there. But the crazy part is, after I did this great success for the cupcake shop, I had a lot of people call me up and like, hey, I run a gynecological office. Can you do what you did for Georgetown Cupcake? I'm like, different product.
Yeah.
Completely different product. I'm like, no, I'm not going to make you as famous as the cupcake shop owner. Like,
No, I don't want to wait in line for my doctor. I want to know what time to show up and get in.
What the hell? So like, that didn't work. But other people would come to me and they would think they would get this level of success. And I'm like, they had all of the right elements to be a PR success. And so I think
What are those elements?
Yes. I think when people are looking to get into PR or to do PR for their company, what do you have something special or new that's different? And if not, I can create that for you. And the way you create it is here's how you do it, guys. So this is the formula that like most PR people use, and you can use it too. And it's in my pitch download if you want to get it. But essentially, it's you take three disparate pieces of data. So like the Harvard Business Review says this, Inc. magazine says that, Fast Company says this, but I say this, right? And you then position yourself as the expert, because the media, they don't want more story ideas. They have 100 story ideas coming to them from a million different places. What they want is data that supports your expertise. And most people don't know how to write a pitch like that. But if you just do that, and most people won't do it, I will give this advice. This is literally how I got a column in the Wall Street Journal, column in Inc. magazine, column in Entrepreneur. This is how I've done it for hundreds of executives, over $1 billion worth of media. Most people will not do it. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, but that's the way you get out there. That's it. That's as simple as that.
So Ed and I talk a lot about just some of the basics of personal branding. Do you have the same picture across all platforms? Do you have the same name across all platforms? What are some of when you get a new client, what are some of the first things that you encourage them to do?
One of the first things I encourage them to do is think about how they're influential in their market. Mm-hmm. Why are you the authority in your market? What social proof do you have that you are the person people should turn to? And how do you spell it out? How do you show scarcity in what you know that other people don't, right? How do you show likability that other people don't? Like Ed has a number of different podcasts across a number of different platforms, but they're all pointing back to the same essential audience, message, purpose, mission, and vision, right? Mm-hmm. So I can say you have scarcity because you have a group of people that you have expertise in. You have authority because you've been working with that group for X number of years. You have other people who say you are the go-to expert. And so I think people focus on the wrong things, right? They don't drill down enough into what's important for people to know about them. They're so focused on, hey, I'm so great. Look at me. This is all the clients I've worked for. Instead of looking at it from the lens where if I'm a buyer, I want to be assured that you're the right choice. So always look at it from the buyer's lens.
And
swapping
sorry,
gears on you for a second.
Today. I'm actually taking notes. I'm not being Brian working on.
Yeah. So we talked before, so we met and you helped to write this book, Convince Me, right, with yourself and with a former FBI hostage negotiator. And one of the key things that was in that is we've all heard the term active listening, but you took it a step further and you guys recommend what's known as forensic listening. And it's such a powerful concept for when you're in the room with people and then when you can review the notes you took later on. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so forensic listening is the art and science of analyzing a conversation after it's happened, because we believe words leave clues. And essentially, guys, like, you've been in a meeting with like your best friend, right? You've been in a meeting with your best friend and you walk out of that meeting and you have like a debrief. You're like, did you see the way that guy looked at that guy? Did you see the way the boss had this interaction with this person? Did you see that this person really got excited or really got mad when that person said this? And you dissect what happened in the meeting because you and your friend are attuned emotionally to what happened in the room. And so what this type of note taking you can do that we recommend that's in the book is you focus on the emotional tenor of the conversation. But one of the things I'd like to just zero in on about forensic listening is this idea of themes. And I think that's one of the most important things when you're taking notes and something that most people miss. So if you can just look at, like, over the course of a conversation, a person reveals what they want you to know about them if you are listening close enough, or if you're listening forensically. Mm-hmm. Like, what themes do they repeat? What stories do they repeat? What do they keep coming back to that they want you to know about them? Most of us completely miss it. We completely miss it. So over the course of a conversation, they are going to tell you this story, theme, concept about me. I want you to remember it and I want you to take it away. And if we're intentional enough, people who are smart, who are really good at personal branding, we say that story, we give that theme in different ways over the course of a conversation. And if you're smart enough, you'll do what we call the reach back, which is like a week after that conversation, 2 weeks after that conversation. I'll say, Brian, it was great talking with you on that podcast. I had so much fun. I heard you really were interested in personal branding and how that was tied to your experience at your company. And here's a resource that I think you'll really like. And come on a show of hands, how many times are people paying attention to you? You feel seen, heard, listened to, understood at that level over the course of your career. How many times has somebody done that? It's like,
it's a rarity. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's Zig Ziglar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, this is how you're supposed to do stuff. But the problem is people get, I don't want to say lazy, but they forget how to do a normal process, and they don't have a systematic approach to their process. And you need to have a systematic approach to everything you do. It's like when Brian and I first got started on this on ACES53, and we talked about how you need a script, and who reached out and said scripts aren't great, they're horrible, we had so many negative comments, and we were like, okay, we never say that you're supposed to read a script, or you have to have a systematic way you do something. You learn it after a while where you don't have to follow the script, but you're actually following the script, and people don't know about it. And that's exactly what you're saying, is you have basically a script when you to follow up with people and to connect with them and have it feel like it's a automatic thing, but really you've set this up a certain way to do this.
Right. And you're
okay.
Yeah. And you're also looking at their emotions. You're looking at what we call body positioning when they're talking. You're looking at the pitch, tone, and cadence of what they're talking to. So like whatever theme really gets them excited, gets them, maybe even gets them frustrated if you're in a sales situation and you're looking for their pain points, right? What are they frustrated about? What did they keep coming back to that you necessarily didn't solve on that call, but you think you could solve moving forward? So many of us miss it because we're looking for next actions instead of what the emotion is that people are putting.
What's funny is it's used in a lot of very rare sales positions. So for example, when you buy a new car, they try and find out when's your birthday, when's your kid's birthday, all these kind of things, because they want to reach out later on and be like, hey, did you get this? Because they know in 2 to 3 years, you're going to need a new car. But not many people keep up with what's going on with people today. Ed and I met through Steve Sims. He's got an entire book about what's something unique you can do to send people that makes you stand out differently. Ripping out a page out of a magazine and sending it to the person who mentioned that they had that hobby or that passion will make you stand out and do something different. And I just like the fact that you said, get in there and take notes, because people think, oh, I got it all up here. And then the next ADD moment comes out and you've completely forgot what you're supposed to do. So having those notes to look back and reflect upon is a huge thing. Obviously you have to make them kind of cryptic when you're doing it, so people don't know weird, right? Yeah, but it's such a great idea.
See, but the only thing, one thing, I never take notes when Brian's around, because Brian takes notes like nobody's business. I cannot even get close to what he takes. I just say, hey, when you're done, can you send me those notes?
Yeah.
And he dictates the whole thing. If you say he has the in there.
Yeah. It's how I pay attention. If not, I would be like, yeah, okay, everything's great. But by taking notes, number one, I'm visual, and it forces me to listen to the person. Just like I can't listen to Audible on normal speed, because if not, I'll be like, shiny.
What's the thing?
There was one time I had to turn down Audible from 1.75 or 1.8 when the person spoke really fast to begin with.
Oh, really?
It was like okay, this guy's talking really fast. Let's slow this thing down. So certain nationalities, certain people will talk faster than other people, and that's the only time I've had to turn it down. But one of the things I want to talk, that you even talk about the PR and how it's important and what you need to have in place. But why do people not do PR? Is it because they think it's so expensive?
I think they think it's expensive. I don't think they know what it is or how it can be beneficial for them. Or more importantly, I don't think they know how to use it to their benefit. I love that one of the sharks on Shark Tank, Mark Cuban, right? He comes out and he says in Inc. magazine, this is like 10 years ago, he's like, if you're a startup, never use PR. And what I would say is I'm calling BS on Mark Cuban, because like, how did he get a show on Shark Tank? How did he get his brand out there? That man has had a PR firm since jump. So like the fact that he says don't get a PR firm is he just wants to lessen the competition. Like anybody who listens to that and doesn't get a PR firm is ridiculous. If you have a certain level of revenue, which I would say, like if you have $1 million in revenue and you don't have some kind of a PR strategy to get out there, you're missing it. You're missing it because you should be repurposing what you're doing. You should be re-promoting the things that you're doing. And you see a lot of people do this on like Instagram stories and reels, and there's AI platforms that do this for various brands. But you have to have a strategy. It's got to be a pull through. What do you want people to take away from who you are, what you know? And this is where somebody like me, who's been looking at brands and people and CEOs, I've worked with hundreds of CEOs. I've worked with the president of the United States. I mean, I've worked with 2 presidents of the United States, billionaires, Ted Leonsis, a number of folks. And what I do is I put together a strategy that makes sense for what you're trying to get across. And it's consistent across the board. And most people don't do that. They do great shows. They have good strategy. They get on LinkedIn all the time. They're on their Instagram. But what most people don't do is they don't do it consistently, and they do not have a message that's a takeaway. It's like 1% of people who do it well. 1%.
It's funny because people like, oh my gosh, that person paid to be in a magazine, or this person paid. Now there's some things you can tell, like right now, the big trend is once you publish a book, pay to be on the New York Times billboard in the background with your book out there.
Times Square. Yeah.
Times Square, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all exposure. And that's the funny thing is, well, paying for ads is paying for exposure. There's so many different things that people do, but for some reason, PR seems to have gotten a bad rap versus, and I know before, like it was a big deal to be in a lot of magazines when publishing was still so prevalent. And now that things have gone online, it doesn't carry the same weight that it once did. Like if you were in Forbes 15 years ago.
I disagree. I'm gonna jump in and say I disagree, because I think Forbes particularly, they have a model where you can pay to play. Yes. And that's why that's lost credibility, Forbes, right?
Right.
But if I'm in Time Magazine, that's still a big freaking deal, right?
Absolutely.
If I'm in the Wall Street Journal, that's a big deal. It's like you got to figure out the publications that sold out, they're not worth going in. They're paid for play, not worth
exactly. It. Right. And that's what
New York Times best-selling list. There's a pay for play there.
Yeah, but the New York Times shut down. They don't do the list anymore.
Oh,
New York Times?
Wall Street Journal doesn't. I think the New York Times still does, but I think the Wall Street Journal doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, New York Times owners I know, I went to someone who's pitching, we now replace them because they don't do it anymore. So,
wow. Wow, I didn't know that.
Because to be on that list, it's just like how much of the check do you want to write to us to be on that list? And so it loses all credibility because of the fact that you're paying to be there. And I think people think PR, they think of public announcements, right? They're thinking the other PR stuff. They're not thinking about what PR really does, because it's been around a long time, and it will help you to do stuff that you need to get that information out there.
Oh my gosh, it's incredibly effective, and really good strategy pulls it all the way through. When I was trying to think of my own PR strategy, which I'm terrible doing this for our own business because we're doing it for other people. So we back in the day, I'm like, what's the most I was thinking about what's my personal brand? Like, what's the most likable thing about me? And I'm like, I'm Italian. People love that I'm Italian. People know that I can cook, but they better, more so, they love that my mother could cook. And my mom is this really fantastic, jovial Italian grandmother who wouldn't want to eat her food, right? And so I'm like, we're going to do a whole cooking class for my clients where it's like Mama G meatballs and more visibility, and brought my mom into my office, made her make this really fancy dinner for all my clients. I had a waiting list for years. I got in Fortune, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur Magazine about what it's like to create a personal brand that's attached to your family, because that made sense. It's so different. Who else is going to do that? Even if you did, it wouldn't replace my version of it. And so people loved that for many years, right? So what is unique about you? What is that thing that maybe you like or you don't like that you want other people to know. Examine that, have a strategy, have a PR strategy around that. And I'm telling you, you're going to get clients, you're going to be noticed, because good PR is not about pay for play. It's not. Some of those work and some of those are effective in adding, gasoline to the fire.
Mhm.
But the best things that work are still the traditional media outlets while they're still out there. We got our book in Fortune. We got our book in Fast Company. When we were in Fast Company, our book
Mhm.
sales went through the roof. Like
I mean,
literally, we saw it. Yeah, it works.
and I know we have to get out of here in a minute. So one of the things, I'll pop back up the company's website here. So Convincing Company. What's funny is when you guys will go to the website and take a look, you offer 2 different events in addition to public personal branding and PR. And one is called the hostage event, and then one is just a regular negotiations class. So what is the difference between the hostage one and the other training that you offer?
So Chip's a former FBI hostage negotiator. So that class is all about solving a fast-paced issue with your team, looking at how people decide under pressure and in crisis situations. And we walk you through it. You defuse a bomb, you talk down a hostage taker in real time with a role player. And it's so cool and people love it. And we attach that to, here's how you can make that make sense in business. And the negotiation course is really all about how to be convincing, how to be effective in business, how to use the tools that both Chip and he used for life and death situations, and I use to save someone's reputation, and how you can use that in everyday business situations to close deals, negotiate better pricing, etc.
And I'll tell you, in a day and age where cancel culture is a very real thing, I think more people need to have that class for when the oh shit moment happens.
Yeah.
How are you going to recover from it?
Yeah.
And so that's a great class to go through that. And I already held up the book before, convinced me. I read it. Yeah, it was so good. I was traveling. I'm like, well, crap, I don't want to give up reading it. So I picked it up on Audible as well. And it was a very, very good book because, like you said, it's a combination of 2 areas of expertise that have common goals. And that is, what's the positive outcome of a bad situation? So former FBI hostage negotiator, you were a crisis PR consultant who worked on some very, very large names and big companies. And so you understand how the machine works, and he understands human psychology, and you do different psychology as well. It's just a phenomenal book. I think everybody needs to pick it up.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Yeah. I mean, we still do crisis communications, but if we told you, we'd have to kill you. So, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, LA could have used you.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Their fire stuff was.
No, I'm talking about the mayor, how bad she was.
Oh God.
And let's go back. Cancel culture is pretty much dead these days. There's no, I mean, if there was it doesn't have the teeth that it used to have.
Right.
Because people aren't afraid to say who they voted for, who they like, or anything else. And that's how it should have been. But for a while there, you couldn't say anything or you'd be canceled. And we all need to get back to being able to talk to one another about things that we might not agree on. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I had the 2 quick stories. I had somebody the other day who's like, I don't like this post. I'm unfollowing this page. I'm like, well, good, but why did you need to share it? Are you wanting attention? You're like the one who's like, I'm leaving. No, I'm really leaving.
Hi.
I'm really... Yeah, people are weird this day and age.
Oh, aren't they ever?
They are. I mean, but also some of the people who are running companies, say what you will, and this is kind of a controversial topic, but Elon Musk and his personal brand, I've been writing about him for about 10 years as his meteoric rise as a brand himself. And man, he was doing so many smart things. He was clearly listening to his PR folks in the first half of his rise. And then he's now doing some just pretty weird stuff. I mean, he's doing some weird things, and it just has to be some kind of a larger distraction strategy that we're just all not privy to yet, but maybe it will come about. But it's scary stuff. I mean, he's doing some weird things.
Yeah, but he has so much money. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, right. He's in a class of his own. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. He couldn't lose enough of it to have to worry about it going forward. I mean, and a lot of people think, you look at SpaceX, it's been around for 22 years.
Yeah. It's not.
People are like, oh, it just started 22 years ago.
Mm-mm.
And that's what people don't get. It takes a while to build things. And he's been working on stuff forever.
And yeah, and he's, one of the things he did in the beginning of his brand is something everybody who's listening to this podcast could do, you guys could do, which I think is such a smart strategy, is he inserted himself as a thought leader with other people who were just so far above him. Like he would be like, I'm like Thomas Edison here. I'm just like Einstein here. I'm just like, right. And we're all not, launching rockets on a regular basis, but just inserting yourself in conversations with smart people who are maybe even a little above what you're doing at the moment is going to help your brand. And most people just miss it, right? They just go, oh, well, I'm not at their level, so I can't say I'm the same kind of thought leader as someone else who's got more attention. It's like, yes, you can. And you
absolutely can. Yeah.
Yeah, you should. And people will start to talk about you in that group.
We're big fans of getting in the rooms, getting in all kinds of masterminds, go to events that you wouldn't normally go to. Coming from being an employee, I had a limited mindset on so many different things. And I sat in rooms with people who are making what I used to make annually a month. And you look at, they just have different strategies. They have different theories. And there's a great book out there that everybody keeps recommending right now. 10X is easier than 2X.
Yeah.
And all these other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're taught, if you're an employee, well, I'm hoping for that 4 or 5% raise, if you're not in sales. And so we're taught these little jumps. And then you get into rooms where people are thinking on just massive levels. And you go, why was I thinking so small?
Well, Brian, can I tell you a story? Oh my gosh.
We're limited by what we think. And
can I tell you guys a story? So I was working as a VP for a small PR firm, right? And it's this run by this woman, and she had like 8 employees. And I always had a gift for new business development, right? Like I just business seems to come to me. I build relationships. I'm sure you guys are the same, right? It's just one of those things. And I got her Raytheon as a client, right? Through one of my relationships, like $15,000, but $20,000 in what they were spending in her PR firm, right? I was definitely not making that a year. I mean, I was definitely not making the amount of money she got from one contract in a year, right? And she goes, Adele, I've got a surprise for you. At the time, I was driving like a Volkswagen Passat or something crappy, right? And she's like, I get in her like Porsche, like, SUV, and she drives me out to her lake house that's being built somewhere, right? Like, she takes me about 45 minutes out, and she goes, look at this house. Without you in this contract, I couldn't build this house. And I was like,
wow.
Bitch, this is my lake house. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I building you this lake house? I'm like, literally, I didn't quit. I had to have another job before I got the nerve up to quit. But I was like, I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. I'm like, did you think that was going to motivate me? Like, what do you guys think her strategy was behind that? Do you think?
I think it was a gratitude. Like some people are just, she didn't say, look at everything I have. She's like, if it wouldn't have been for you in my life, I couldn't do this. And it just poked you in the right way.
That got me. Like, no, thank you.
Well, the good news is you didn't take her hostage, and that's not how you met Chip, right? No, you're just like, this is my life now.
It's not how I did it.
All right. Well, we have to cut
short. We got to go. We have to have you back.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. But I'm serious. That lake house, that made me so mad. I was like, I think I had like 10 years worth of good new business fuel just on that lake house.
Yeah.
Wow. But no, what she was trying to do is tell you to go out on your own.
Yes.
Right.
She was showing you what you could do but unfortunately she wasn't smart enough that she shouldn't have done that. What she should have did is buy you a new car and said, here's your new car for what you've done for the company.
Thank you. We're some kind of
here's your new car while you work for us. We'll make the payments for you.
Right.
Well, there's that parable of the business owner who comes in, he drives his new Porsche, and he sits everybody down and goes, if you guys work hard and you stay and you work late hours and you do all these things and we get more business, I can buy a second Porsche. It's a similar.
The same thing. Yeah, that's the lake house, right? It's this. I was like, I'm not buying this for you. Like, what am I doing? This is crazy. Yeah.
All right.
That must have been a cheap lake house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get us out of here.
Come on.
All right, everybody. Brian, thanks for being here. Adele, thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank you for listening and watching us. And again, we're here Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 Pacific or 12 Central. You can figure out the Eastern yourself. And if on Tuesdays, it's just Brian and myself. He always argues. I tell him the way it is. And on Thursday, we have a joker who is a guest, who is somebody who has that unique ability. And that was Adele today. Thank you, Adele, for being here.
Thank you.
How do people find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. Go to convincingcompany.com or our second website, which is trainingsogood.com.
All right. Again, thanks for being here. And thank you both for being here.